Have you ever heard of a paint job causing $1 billion lawsuit? It sounds crazy, right? But that's exactly what happened between Qatar Airways and the giant aircraft manufacturer Airbus. This isn't just a story about peeling paint. It's a high-stakes drama involving two of the biggest names in aviation, with reputations and massive amounts of money on the line. So what exactly went wrong? It all started with the Airbus A350, a state-of-the-art long-haul jet made from advanced composite materials. Qatar Airways was a major customer, ordering dozens of these beautiful planes. But soon after they started flying, Qatar's maintenance crews noticed something alarming. The paint on the fuselage was cracking, blistering, and peeling away. Underneath, the special copper mesh layer, designed to protect the plane from lightning strikes, was exposed and showing signs of corrosion. Qatar Airways, led by its famously outspoken CEO Akbar Al-Baker, was not happy. They claimed this was a serious safety issue. Imagine flying at 35,000 feet and wondering if the skin of your plane is compromised. Qatar grounded over 20 of its A350s, citing safety concerns and refusing to take delivery of any new ones until the problem was fixed. They said the damage could interfere with the lightning protection system, potentially putting passengers and crew at risk. This is where things get really interesting. Airbus fired back, and they fired back hard. They insisted the issue was purely cosmetic. Yes, the paint was peeling, which they admitted wasn't ideal, but they argued that the plane's structural integrity and its lightning protection were completely sound. The European Union Aviation Safety Agency, or EASA, one of the world's top aviation regulators, backed Airbus. They studied the problem and concluded that the paint degradation did not pose an airworthiness or safety issue. So you have two sides, two completely different stories. Qatar Airways is screaming safety risk, while Airbus is saying, it's just a bad paint job. Who do you believe? Qatar took the extraordinary step of suing Airbus in a London court for over $1 billion in damages. They weren't just asking for a repaint. They wanted compensation for the grounded planes and the disruption to their operations. To prove their point, Qatar Airways released dramatic videos showing the extent of the damage. You could see large patches of paint flaking off, revealing the dark composite material and the copper mesh underneath. It looked bad, really bad. For the average person, seeing that kind of thing on a plane would be terrifying. Qatar was playing a very strong public relations game, trying to win over public opinion and pressure Airbus into a settlement. But Airbus didn't just sit back and take it. They took an unprecedented and shocking step in the aviation world. They canceled Qatar Airways' entire remaining order for a 350 South. Not only that, they also terminated a separate massive contract for 50 of their smaller A321neo jets. This was a power move. Airbus was essentially telling Qatar, if you're going to sue us and publicly trash our flagship product, we don't want your business. This sent shockwaves through the industry. Major airlines and manufacturers have disagreements all the time, but they're almost always settled behind closed doors. Canceling an order of this size was unheard of. The legal battle in London became incredibly heated. Lawyers for both sides presented mountains of technical evidence. Qatar's team argued that the root cause was a fundamental design flaw. The composite fuselage and the aluminum frame expand and contract at different rates with temperature changes during flight. They claimed this movement was tearing the paint and damaging the crucial lightning protection layer. Airbus's lawyers presented their own experts. They argued that the A350 was designed to handle these thermal variations perfectly. They suggested that Qatar's own operational environment, with its extreme heat and humidity, might be a contributing factor, or perhaps their maintenance and washing procedures were too harsh. They stood firm on the EASA's findings. The plane was safe to fly. The courtroom drama was fascinating. At one point, Airbus even accused Qatar of orchestrating the entire crisis to avoid taking delivery of new planes during the pandemic when air travel had plummeted. They suggested Qatar was trying to use a minor paint issue as an excuse to get out of its expensive contracts. This accusation turned the tables, painting Qatar not as a victim concerned about safety, but as a shrewd operator trying to manipulate the situation for financial gain. So, who was right? The truth, as it often is, was probably somewhere in the middle. Other airlines had reported similar, though less severe, paint issues on their 350 South. This suggested it wasn't just a Qatar-specific problem. However, no other airline had grounded their planes or sued Airbus. Most worked with the manufacturer to find a solution, like developing a new, more flexible type of paint. The conflict seemed destined for a years-long, incredibly expensive court case. But then, just as suddenly as it began, it was over. In early 2023, the two companies announced they had reached a friendly and mutually agreeable settlement. The details were kept confidential, but the lawsuits were dropped. Most importantly, Airbus reinstated Qatar's cancelled orders for both the A350s and the A321neos. The planes that had been grounded were to be repaired and returned to service. So, what does this tell us? Qatar Airways tried to play hardball. They used public pressure and a massive lawsuit to try and force Airbus's hand. They wanted a complete redesign and $1 billion. But they underestimated Airbus's willingness to fight back. By canceling the orders, Airbus showed it was willing to lose a huge amount of business to protect its reputation and its product. They called Qatar's bluff. In the end, Qatar didn't get its $1 billion payout. They didn't get a redesigned plane. What they got was a repair plan and their original orders back. You could say they failed miserably in their attempt to outsmart Airbus. They picked a fight with one of the most powerful players in the industry and ended up having to back down. The whole episode serves as a powerful lesson in corporate disputes. When you go to war with a giant, you'd better be sure you can win. In this battle of the skies, Airbus proved it had the upper hand. It was a fascinating saga that exposed the intense pressures and rivalries that exist behind the scenes in the world of aviation. It wasn't just about paint. It was about pride, power, and billions of dollars. And in the end, it was a fight that Qatar Airways couldn't win. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as interesting as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of aviation. See you in the next one.